That would be awesome. Mine never does, but I hope yours does. That would be great. So we're leaving Genesis and we're moving into Exodus. As we get into Exodus, we continue to look for deeper spiritual truths, and I want to begin by reminding you that when Jesus goes up on the Mount of Transfiguration, there are two characters there with him, two Old Testament heroes of faith, and those are Moses and Elijah. That is the law and the prophets. These are the two most significant characters in the Old Testament for the Jewish people, and therefore for us as we look to understand God's plan for our lives. And so now Joseph went into Egypt as a slave, rose to power by the hand of God, and brought his family down because of the famine, and now they're residing in Goshen. And the beginning of the book of Exodus tells us that they are multiplying like crazy. And so the very first chapter has this thought. And I wanted to share this with you because I think it's a very important and significant spiritual truth that you and I can use. I think so. Okay? So there's a list of the names of the brothers who came down into Egypt, their families, and then they settle, and then they multiply. And then comes this. This is Exodus chapter 1, verse 8. Then a new king, to whom Joseph meant nothing, came to power in Egypt. Maybe it's my age. Maybe it's my friends' ages. Maybe it's just a season in my life. But Joseph, the most powerful man in Egypt, was very quickly forgotten and meant nothing to the people of the world, to the power brokers, to the Egyptians. He means a lot to the Hebrew people. His name's in the book, and he carries with him the great flag of God's deliverance. He also carries with him the reality that that deliverance came through enslavement. And so, you know, when you and I, when we've hit difficult places in our lives, we often are like, why is this happening? Why me? What did I do to deserve this? What about them? And so in a conversation with my daughter, the reality of what the writer is saying here and realizing here, and what my soul is soaking in, is this. God made a promise, and I'm a promise keeper. I do my best to believe and trust in the promises of God and to live my life according to those promises. But get this, he made a promise to Abraham that his heirs would inherit a land, and they would be so numerous that they couldn't be counted. After many years, they get to the land and begin to live there. And then by God's design, they have to leave because of a famine and become slaves in Egypt. And by God's design, the lineage of Abraham in the political structure of this world is cut off, forgotten, of no influence. And all that is done so that they can multiply. I told Ashley we were talking about how do we face difficult things? And I told her that God made a promise to Abraham, and the fruition of that promise took 2,000 years to realize. Who am I to complain about my state of being and where I am? How can I not believe that what I'm going through is exactly as God wants it? It's by design. I mean, I read this story and I'm like, that's the design? Yeah, that's the design. That's the plan. And so whatever you're facing in your life, what I've learned is acceptance is the key. Not acceptance that I can't do anything and bemoaning acceptance, but faith acceptance, where you absolutely get to where you believe God has control of this and he will see me through because he's promised. Now, it may be that 5 years after I die, no one remembers anything that I did. That could happen, but God does. And to be part of the kingdom, it means that you are faithful to the promises as God is faithful to the promises. And you trust that your kingdom work counts for something. Because it does. So you trust in the Lord. That's a pretty deep word. That's pretty hefty for 7 o'clock Tuesday morning. But it's a great word because it's a really great place to live. You can remove yourself from the it's not fair fight with life and say, okay, God, I'm going to believe that you're here. You're right here in the midst of it. So lead on. And he is, and he will. So you have a great, great Tuesday and a great week, and I'll see you either this